Arts and Culture Commission meeting, our regular meeting. Today is Thursday, August 19, 2010, and it's about 2 p.m. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioners Deaver? Yes. Chair Hovhanessian?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Wagner is absent. Chairperson Kevanyan.
I'm here. I don't know what everybody's yesing about, but I'm here.
The agenda for the August 19th meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on August 13th, 2010. Item 2, consent items, approval of regular commission meeting minutes from June 17th, 2010 at 2 p.m.
Okay. Any corrections?
Yes.
Commissioner Deaver?
Just minor under the business agenda, this A, but the second bold, it says participating at the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study. It's actually in the arts. And the only other one was under the last page, under the Vended Museum exhibit. It's actually Vende, I think, without a D at the end. Just the formal name, I believe.
Okay.
B like boy, Ben?
Wende, there's no D at the end, I don't believe.
It's in present tense, not past tense. I guess would be the grammatical correction. Okay, any other corrections, comments?
Motion to approve the minutes?
Okay, I can entertain that as well.
Second?
Oh, there was a
Motion to approve the minutes
Okay.
with the changes that we just made.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioners Deaver?
Yes.
Chair Hovhanessian?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Wagner is absent. Chairperson Kevanyan.
Yes. Next item on the agenda, please.
Item 3, introductions and presentations. Introduction of mural program and various projects by Emily Goff and Roger Dolan.
This is the Arts and Culture Commission, not the Technical Support Division of the city. So, Miriam, take your time. Yeah, it's fine. Can we pantomime the presentation? No, I'm kidding. I guess I'm the comic relief of this commission because nobody else is saying anything. So,
I can start.
sure.
My name is Emily Goff. I'm the art teacher. And this is Roger.
Hi.
And owner of environments. And we came here today to hopefully increase awareness about what we're doing at the have a mural that has been in the process for and artworks of the community by increasing awareness. So we want to show you the projects we've done and an introduction.
So these are, this is the name of what we call the Daily Mural Project.
The microphone's not on.
Yes, that's correct. I thought it's me.
There you go.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
So we brought some of our projects to show you, starting with so the first project that we did when I came to Daly was the mascot mural for them, and they were trying to figure out something to do with this wall here, and that's pretty much how the school looked when I first got there. And so we did this. And we did all with the students and mural techniques of which I had been working with. And we brought it in and found out that Daly was a perfect place to paint murals on the campus, involve all the students, and do this project. So we're going to show you real quickly how we started this. Go ahead.
Our students, well, as you know, Daly is the alternative high school for the Glendale Unified School District. So we have many, many students who were previously not successful in their home schools. And so they come to us. Many of them have never had an art class before. So we start with the basics. We teach them very basics, painting skills, color theory, vocabulary, and so on. But some of the most important things they learn are time management, working with clients, collaboration, and the pride of seeing their work out in the community. So Okay, so these are some of the early stages in the process. These are students working on their renderings for the dragon mural that you saw earlier.
We started out by having every kid do their own design, and we incorporated each one of these. We used a lot of Photoshop skills to take the images that they did and show how it would look like. Then as a class, we all decided which images we wanted to use. We showed the class how to do an elevation and a grid, and then take those small drawings and then blow them up to the bigger drawings. The school itself looked pretty empty before, and you can't really see in there, but how we prepared the walls, and then the whole perimeter of the school we set up to actually paint the murals. So we painted the murals outside there on the walls using this mural material.
So you can see all over the school, all the walls of the school now. We paint on this fabric so that all the students can be involved. They're obviously not climbing on scaffolding many feet above the ground. So it's a process that allows us to paint murals on our campus and then install them somewhere else. So it allows maximum participation by all the students. And they love it. They get to go outside the classroom. They're not stuck behind a desk. And it's been very successful.
You can see all the walls. This is two stories, and we got all the walls covered up, and each one is lined up with the one next to it, so that we can get them all together. And then we sometimes use heavy equipment to install them. That's not done with the students. That's just done, usually me as a professional just goes up there with an assistant, and we just glue these to the wall.
So
That's the final.
there's the finished piece. And it made a huge impact on the quality of campus life. That was the group. And then the following project then was another one for the entryway to the school, and before and after. And again, the students spent a lot of time discussing concepts before we even go into the designing process. So these are some very early sketches. You can see how rough it starts out. But they wanted a mural that would welcome students and give them some sense of hope when they enter the campus. And they were also very aware of how the parents feel when they first bring their students on campus. So they wanted to, they chose the quote by Gandhi, "The future depends on what we do in the present." We did a lot of research on quotes.
There it is, finished. So they're painted on the material, they're glued to the wall. You do some touch-ups on the wall if we can reach it, and then we seal it, and it's a permanent installation. So it'll be there as long as the school is.
So then we started going off campus. I think we better go pretty fast here.
What's our time?
Forever. No,
Well, this is Horace Mann Elementary, and so I believe So they came to us at that point. So see the before and after. This is a photoshopped image, so we'll get to the actual finished piece. Early renderings. Everything is done by students, everything, and these were our clients. So we had several meetings at Horace Mann with the student council, and they were our clients. And then they would come to Daly, and so there was a lot of back and forth communicating ideas. And this was another one that was a partnership with the Rotary Club of Glendale. This is Mr. Kazazian came into the classroom and spoke to the students, as well as Captain Sloan, who was of the Salvation Army at that time. Those are early renderings. Critiques, very important. Students learn how to give positive, constructive feedback.
From those beginning drawings that you saw, we decided to let the whole class draw together on this one. So we put up a big piece of butcher paper, and we let the kids just, as a group, go up and draw. And then we painted it, and we came up with that. Cut that up into little squares. Passed out a little square to every kid. Over 100 kids, the whole school was involved in this one. And we had a big grid, and each kid was to paint a square. We knew that each kid would paint it a little differently, but that when we put it all together, it would have a unifying theme.
And it was really wonderful to see how they were forced in the process to get up and match their piece with someone else's, someone maybe they didn't normally talk to. So in the process, we were trying to build community. So here it is coming into place. It was sort of like playing bingo. We kept putting down squares. And it first was a traveling mural, so it was first shown at the Central Library of Glendale. And then we eventually found a permanent home for it at the Salvation Army headquarters. And that's where it still is. John Marshall Elementary, extremely stark, as you can see.
I guess they had just had some remodeling done, so it looked even extra stark. And this is what we did to it.
Beautiful.
That's the drawings that we did in class, another rendering with the students, and then we superimposed some pictures. The kids from the school wanted to be in the mural, so we actually took pictures of all the kids and put them in poses that would work in the park, and then they gave us the pictures, and then we put them in there. So that's one of them. We actually had to lay this one out because it was really big on the ground out there. But until then, we had them laid out on the walls like the other ones.
So these were Daly students doing portraits of Marshall students.
Yeah.
And then Roger spent quite a lot of time at the elementary school working with the younger students, and we also had some Daly students working as mentors there, and so the Marshall Elementary students had a hand in the process as well.
We prepared it so that the bottom 2 feet of the mural would be left empty so that the little kids at the school could do their own painting there, and we kept it fairly simple. So you can see the line right here of where the material ends, and then the wall begins. But if you're not looking for it, you'd never see it. There's one of our guys painting this girl right here. PTA. How are we doing?
Yeah.
We have to stop? We're done?
Yeah, well,
We have to get to
yeah, we do have a full agenda today,
Okay.
so.
All right.
Yeah.
Should we And with this one?
No, with the central.
Oh, okay.
This is a project that we're doing now, that we're in the middle of. It's for East Lake Juvenile Hall. There's a high school there called Central High School inside the school there. So I went there. We met with them, took a picture of this building. That's the one they want. We superimposed some designs on it. That's kind of what the final one is going to look like. We're still in progress on this one, but that's the rendering that they approved after we showed them. Well, in class we did these designs. And then we showed them 3 different proposals. We let them pick the one that they wanted. And then we've been painting it now, and this is us painting it in small sections. There you go.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yes.
2 questions. When you're doing it on the kind of a fabric and then you glue it. Now, what happens with the other year students who join in? So you're taking those murals out and you have the new students to paint in, or how does that work?
They understand the process is staggered. So oftentimes what we tell them is that they may only be involved in the design stage. And then it may be another group of students who comes along to be involved in the painting stage. So the students you saw on the last slide are currently earning community service. They come in after school hours and they paint. They may not have had a hand in the actual design process.
And the second question is, have you approached organizations in the community to see if our students could go and do those murals for them? I know that you mentioned some organizations, but is it at large? Does the community know that our kids do such a fabulous job?
That's one of our reasons for being here.
Very good. Very
We want
good.
to
Thank
get the
you.
word out so that people know about this, so that we can do more of these for other organizations.
Wonderful. Commissioner Deaver?
Yeah, I just want to say that because I met with you both earlier this year or late last year and was just really struck by the work that you're doing, because it's a very comprehensive process and in both educationally and artistically and what it's doing for the community. I think it's really fabulous, and I'm glad that you are here, and I hope that we can get the word out, because I know that you contract independently with private organizations and businesses and work with the kids. And I think in some instances, some of the kids that have come through the program have gone on to work on projects sort of independently with you as well, which I think is really tremendous. So I'm so glad that you're here. I want to mention too, because I think you have a Facebook page or website and things like that, so we can get that information out to the public, so if people want more information about how to contact you about this. I think that would be great to have.
Yeah.
What is it? Or is there a website?
Daily Mural Project.
Great.
You can look that up on Facebook, and then I can be reached at Daly High School, and Roger is at Mural Environments.
Muralenvironments.com.
Great.
Mural environments?
Huh?
Mural environments.
Mural, yeah.
It would be great if you go to the city council as well, because there are many people in this community who watch all the Tuesday sessions, so that could be a good venue also for the public to hear about you. And there are many people in construction who come for their own businesses to city council, and they can benefit, from that information as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks again for
Thanks for
coming.
coming.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, please.
Item 4, oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not on this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Commission may question the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. Staff may refer the matter for investigation and report.
Okay. The first card I have is Becky Mate.
Hello, Chairman and Commissioners. First, the news release that on August 10th, 2010, at City Council meeting, Glendale Mayor Najarian proclaim the second Friday in August, August 13th, as Art Day, and Glendale as a home of Art Day. This is the 5th year of this mayoral proclamation, which celebrates the artists, arts, and culture of Glendale. Contemporary fine artist Angelica Marins accepted the proclamation of Art Day on behalf of the Glendale Art Association, Artists for Human Rights, and artists of all disciplines in Glendale. Her work, along with that of Alice Asmar, was featured at this year's Community Art and Chocolate Party held on Art Day by me. And then secondly, I wanted to thank you for having the Glendale studio tour. I'm not a professional artist, but I did a series of art on Glendale Home of Art Day, and my art had prominent position in the gallery, so that was fun. And I'll show you some of the ones I did. Like City Hall with a monument to Glendale Home of Art Day. I'll pass them around.
I was hoping those were presents for us, but lucked out again.
Art Day at the Alex, Art Day at the Americana, Art Day at the train station, that sort of thing. And I would like to request that the news that the mayor proclaimed Art Day go out to the mailing list of the commission in your next newsletter or by email. The commission voted to support Art Day, and the news that the mayor gave a pat on the back to the artists of Glendale is important to everybody. Doesn't matter that it's after the fact. Here's the news release for everybody. And lastly, I know you're giving some thought to the Glendale studio tour. And if you do it at a single location, I'd like to suggest that you incorporate Art Day as part of it. And in addition to the artists showing their work, I'd like to include a children's art area, perhaps monitored, like the Atanian Arts Center did at the Art Day celebration in the Galleria that we did, where the kids just have an area where they can create. At my own party, I got a note from a 14-year-old. She appreciated that part of my party, is I just have an area where the kids can just create. She said, "Thank you, Becky, for this wonderful day. We had a great time. I know the time and effort you put into this holiday. We love Art Day, especially the arts." And I almost forgot, thank you for the gift. That's from Vardui, Lucine, Nooni, and Stella. And also, I'd like to have a booth letting people know about Art Day, showing off the proclamation from the mayor for that year. And I'd like to have on display some of the art received from around the world for Art Day, such as what we received this year via a mail art campaign organized by me through artistsforabetterworld.org. For instance, an artist in Canada wished everybody Happy Art Day. We got mail art from Devon, England, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Denmark, Izmir, Turkey, St. Louis, Missouri, Austria, Dallas, a city in Colombia, Oregon, etc.
We can show everything. You can thumbs up.
Okay. I just wanted you to know we got people are celebrating Art Day and wishing us Art Day from all those countries. So I thought that would be a nice thing to incorporate within the next studio tour, especially if you do localize it to a single place. Anyway, any questions or suggestions or?
Questions, comments from my colleagues?
Well, thank you for putting that together, and I apologize, I wasn't in town on the 13th, so I missed it. So hopefully next year.
Yes, well, you can celebrate it anywhere because it's international.
Stephen, were you celebrating it where you were?
A little bit, actually.
See, there you
we
go.
were camping at Lake Casitas, so we were making our own art. One of our campers, they built their tent, and then they wanted to relocate it, so they just took the whole tent up in fixed position and then just moved it. So that was sort of artistic to some degree.
Rotation or by
Yeah.
roving or those geometric concepts, huh?
Yes.
in
Okay.
design.
Any other comments, questions? Becky, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next card I have is Sylvester Williams.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Rip Samay, for inviting me
You're welcome.
to this event. This is to the commission. I've got some applications, samples of applications. You want me to pass these out to you individually or give it to the lady here?
You can hand it to Miriam, and she will give it to us.
One of each. As she's passing those out, I'll begin. On September the 25th, 2010, at Santa Saturday, Glendale Presbyterian Church is sponsoring a children's art show. The ages of the participants are 3 to 18, male and female, handicapped children as well. Here are applications for each board member to inspect and consider. What is the purpose of the children's art show? For the children to express their individual creativity, imagination, gift, and talent, expressing their spirit as well. Derived from this will be confidence and a stronger sense of character, beginning to form during one's youth. If handicap of some form, confidence, sense of happiness, and good character building, a sense of independence. Art technology is the present form of art that corporate world, cities, nations are employing more often now than not. This has been true for almost 25 years now. This form of art is current for the past 25 years. This art technology is expensive, very expensive. In return, art technology is lucrative. Question: does the City of Glendale have a budget or program that will assist its residents with skills and knowledge of art technology, computer-generated art? I'm not familiar with it, with this type of art. This wasn't available when I was in school, but it's quite formative now. DreamWorks, that's all the art that they create, from my understanding. Disney still does some manual art. Benefits. The City of Glendale, if it's possible, if they have a budget, will be able to benefit from this type of art. It's you saw samples of it in the murals. Then this also comes in the form of, this was what you're seeing there, that's computer generated art. It takes a little bit longer to do it when you do it manually, like a week longer. That's to give you an idea. Help to build a future for the children and residents of Glendale, California. A budget for a program to assist children and residents with skills, education, understanding of art technology. Will you consider the possibility of something like this for the City of Glendale in your budget, if you have grants, to assist the children in computer-generated art? Everybody's not in a position where they can go to school, go to a college, and learn this. And something like this might be assisted. So my question is, will the board here consider this for the children and for the residents of the City of Glendale? I understand that it's quite lucrative. It can be. Some of the business that we see on TV, it's computer-generated art. And I know some people at the church, their children make a good living out of it. But what it pays, I don't know. All I know is good. So that's. I wanted to introduce the idea of the children's art show at the church to you, from this for it to grow into that of technology, the art. Because the form of manual art, the child who did this, he did it manually. Then it was taken from that and put on a computer and scanned. That was scanned in a matter of seconds, where it took him a week to do it. That's the difference between computer-generated art and manual art. So that's what I wanted to present to you.
Great.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
appreciate you take the consideration to chew on it for me. Any questions?
First of all, thank you, Mr. Williams. Director Chapchin?
Yeah, briefly, we do have a program, the Workforce Investment Board, which is part of the job training program down on Central.
What's it called?
The Workforce Investment Board and the Verdugo Job Center. There is a training program for animation, computer-generated animation, and there is a program to train people to do that sort of thing. Not for children per se, but I think 18 and older. So why don't I ask Don Nakamoto, who runs the Verdugo Job Center, to come next month and give you a presentation on that program.
At the church when we have our...
Well, it's not done at the church. No, it's
No, I'm asking, will they be able to make a presentation of it at the Children's Art Show?
Possibly. Yeah. Let me see if Don is available or one of his staff is available for September 25th.
Okay.
Sure.
That would be good.
Yeah. So there is such a program. I mean, it's more than scanning. Scanning is different than actually generating the images on the computer. But I understand it's also not an easy field to be in, because a lot of this is outsourced overseas as well, because of the ability to email it back and forth, that sort of thing. So, but there is a training program here, and I'll get Don hooked up with your church as well.
Thank you.
And then have Don come in here and talk as well.
Okay.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Any other questions?
Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Mr. Williams, thank you very much.
Thank you
Thanks so much for coming.
And thank you, Ripsame, for the art tour.
You're very welcome.
Don't you love it? Everybody who's come and spoken for oral community has thanked Ripsame for Open Studio Tour. The next card I have is from Omar Olgin. Did I say that correctly?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Hello, my name is Omar Holguin. I'm the director, curator, and owner of La Mancha Gallery. We participated at the Glendale Open Studio. We were located at the Chess Park location. And, our gallery, we operate a little bit differently. We are an event-based gallery. What that means is basically, instead of you going to the gallery, we bring the gallery to you. We've done this with several locations and cities. We have worked in Bel Air, Beverly Hills, downtown, Coachella, as far as Coachella. So we've done our work throughout many different locations. And we have created a type of talked about exhibits, where a lot of the community gets to partake of these type of events. We're really glad that we get to do these things, and I am actually here to give thanks to the city of Glendale for giving us this opportunity to participate in this wonderful event, and we are grateful for this. And that's it. I just came here to say thank you to all of you for that.
Great. Thank you so much.
Questions, comments?
Any questions?
Thank you. Yes, I think it's a great idea that if people don't come to you, you take your art to the people. It's a wonderful way of approaching.
Yeah, we get artists from all over the world. They consign their work to us, and we get to show it out. We rather than a gallery paying for one artist to come into the States for one exhibit, we keep some of their work in-house, and we show it out in different cities. So we bring, the artwork, to different locations. That type.
Mr. Deaver?
I actually do have a question. So technically, who are you working with typically, or contracting with, or what types of venues are you typically utilizing?
Well, the really good example was the Open Studio. Some cities they have an art walk, for example, and they on occasions we go and rent a location ourselves, or we work with a city and we present a theme that either relates to the city or it relates to the times or something that is going on, and we present an exhibit and we show it usually for a month, and we invite the community to go and check the work as such.
That's great.
Very clever.
Thank you.
And I believe Omar also represents international artists through the embassies. Like we met after the Open Studio tour, and he was explaining how that works. He works with the Mexican embassy, and because of the difficulties doing art shows in the embassy, they have contacted him to create exhibition opportunities for those famous artists from Mexico. And I thought the concept was very interesting, and we would like to hear more about that.
Oh yeah, for quite a while I've been working with the Mexican embassy. Mexican embassy tends to be in-house. They don't go outside of LA much. They just bring famous artists from Mexico and they show them in the embassy. For the longest time they've been asking, to show it outside of the embassy because it's so limited. So they don't talk to a lot of outsiders. So for some reason they really like what I do, and they contacted me. So I've been actually helping them out in getting outside of their embassy out. They've done some shows in downtown LA, but they're not too happy with the situation. The location was underground and it was not accessible, so they were back to square one. So they've been looking out to see where else they can show these truly incredible artists, and they usually take care of everything themselves, and they just want somewhere to show them. Also, recently I will be working with the Italian embassy, same situation also. They want that, they want to present that type of work.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Omar.
All right. That's all the cards that I have. So next item on the agenda, please.
Item 5, business agenda. 5A, action items. At 5A1, commission appointed liaison to the Glendale Arts Board.
Okay. At this commission meeting, it is very important for the commission to appoint a new liaison to the Glendale Arts Board. Mr. Barry McComb is here to answer your questions. This appointment is one of the 3 non-voting seats available, and the commission-appointed liaison is not being considered as one of the board members. Therefore, the role of this liaison person is only for information gathering and presentation. So if you have any questions, Barry is here. He will be more than happy to answer your questions. They have their meetings once a month, every second Tuesday of the month at 7:30 a.m. At their board's conference room. So,
Okay. Are there any takers for the position? I'm just going to say it like that. I mean, because I was a liaison. Stephen was our last liaison, and I think there's been actually some interest on Commissioner Wagner's part, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so that's something that we need to consider. Mr. Grant, is it okay if Commissioner Wagner is not here, but yet we launch her to this position?
We nominate and vote her.
Chair Cavani and Commissioners, as long as she agrees to it, that's not a problem.
Okay. Well, we'll ask her. Commissioner Wagner? Okay, I think we're good. Okay, so I'm guessing. Okay, I'm getting nods from everyone. He's sitting next to me. So if somebody would like to make that motion, I will entertain it.
I would like to motion that Commissioner Wagner would be appointed to go on behalf of the Commission to the Art Board.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Deaver seconds. Can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Sieber,
Yes.
Chair Hovhanessian,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Wagner is absent, Chairperson Kevanian.
Yes. See?
5B discussion items. At 5B1, affordable housing and workspace for artists and art organizations, direction to staff.
Thank you, Barry.
At the June Commission meeting, the Affordable Housing and Workspace for Artists and Art Organizations item was discussed, initiated by Commissioner Deaver. The Commission expressed interest in continuing the discussion, therefore it is on the agenda. After the Commission's discussion, the Commission can direct staff to give direction to staff.
So for that, I'm just going to hand the mic over, as they say, to Commissioner Deaver.
Well, at our last meeting, I think it was requested that I come back with some a laundry list, I guess, to start for consideration of recommendations that could be made to council that would support affordable space and promote the arts within the city of Glendale in a sustainable way. And so I took some time to put together, and I believe it's on public record now. It's available to the public. It's the first time the commissioners are seeing it as well. But it outlines some basic information about background on affordable space and the benefits to the community for that, kind of a perspective from a national perspective on what communities are doing to sustain the arts, or more organically, local arts that can branch forth and create more of a sense of place with regard to the arts in a community. So with that kind of forward on the document, I've outlined 7 different items that again, it's a laundry list from my perspective, and what I'm looking to from my fellow commissioners here are other ideas that you may have, questions that you may have about the different items. And it's really a point for discussion. I think ultimately what we should be doing is looking at prioritizing and then asking, from my opinion, asking staff to then look into any one of these items that we think are a priority, to gather more information that we might need to be able to come to an informed recommendation to present to City Council as a body about things that we think would be important for the City of Glendale and for the arts community here. And would it be helpful for me to go through that list of 7?
I think it would be a great idea, because on some of them there are some questions that
Sure.
you don't get to them.
And these are essentially initiatives and programs. And number one, I wrote down this Creative Space Referral Program. And there are cities, I think, locally and nationally that have set up a way for property owners and artists to come together. So if an owner has space that could be utilized for live workspace, could be utilized for studio or exhibit, and they are willing to rent that affordably, we can hook them up with artists that need space, whether it's from month to month or it's an annual basis. I will say generally that the downside of that is that artists are not having permanent space, because ultimately what everyone would hope would happen is that the area in which artists are coming in will become maybe more viable, and ultimately building owners can get more rent and may end up bringing in somebody else, or artists will end up putting a lot of money into a space to fix it up, to make it the improvements that they need in order to get the affordable rents, and that doesn't necessarily stay with them. It's rentable, so it goes on to the next person and it stays with the building owner. So anyway, that's number one. Number two, relocation incentives. A lot of communities have put in place incentives to have artists either to stay in a community, to relocate to a particular part of a community if they're looking for redevelopment, or to bring in artists from outside of the community that may want to live and or work in the community. There's relocation outreach, and this is the number 3. And the reason I put this in is I think that the City of Glendale has a lot of interesting things on the books currently through different departments at the city, but I think it's very there's no centralized resource for that. So I think any artists either living in the community or wanting to relocate, or creative businesses or other tangent businesses to the arts don't really know where to go to gather all that information to know what kind of incentives might be there. And so I think that's an important piece. Number 4, development of affordable arts facilities. They come in a variety of different models. There's live-work projects. There's projects that have a number of working studios for visual and or performing artists. There's art centers that typically have a programmatic element to that, often a nonprofit. There's display space that can be curated by artists or by a nonprofit that can be revolving, that involves local artists. There's spaces that are more performance-based and rehearsal, and then there's mixed use, which is a larger facility typically where you would have maybe live work and studio space and perhaps some nonprofit arts organizations in there or small businesses, and it becomes a singular location and identity unto itself. Number 5, again, into the initiatives, there's density bonuses and development transfer rights, which I know that the city is looking into a number of different policies with regard to how can we encourage developers and or property owners to be either funding for the arts or incorporating spaces at affordable rates for nonprofit organizations or incorporating live workspaces into their buildings. Number 6, city policy for providing city-owned spaces to organizations for arts uses in return for programming. I think there are models out there where a city who has buildings that they own and operate, and they are willing to provide an annual lease at $1, say, for instance, and that nonprofit will take over that space, but they are in turn then programming with youth programming, with other classes, with display space, with rehearsal space, things making space available to the community in return. So it's a public benefit in return for this low-cost lease of a property that the city already owns. And then finally, number 7, affordable housing set-asides in mixed-use income projects targeted to artists. A lot of times there are housing developers that are doing market rate spaces, but the city's requiring them to include a certain number of affordable units as part of that, and I think the city's involved in this to some extent as well, where those spaces are then being turned over and made affordable to artists specifically, or there are also transfers of rights where a developer might say, well, I'm not able to accommodate the live work or affordable space for artists in my project, but if you'll let me do it all for at a market rate, perhaps another developer will take those things that those affordable pieces and do that in another project, and they get the benefit of that. So those were just the 7 that I kind of threw together, and I just wanted to open that for discussion if there were other ideas that my fellow commissioners have about different ways of addressing these needs and or for prioritizing any of these and or others that are brought to the table.
My question would be, I mean, this is a fabulous idea. Just how would the city be involved or the commission be involved in this? What kind of a manpower is it needed? What kind of legal arrangements and adjustments needed? How do you envision? I know that there's a possibility that we need to have authority discuss on that topic, but how do you envision this as a commissioner?
Well, I think it depends on the initiative, and it depends. I think that, honestly, that's a question for council, since we don't have sort of authority really to give recommendations. But as an example, if you are looking at affordable housing for artists or a development bricks and mortar project, that is typically going to be going through your redevelopment agency or your housing department. So they have resources and tools and the knowledge for seeing those kinds of projects through. It's really more of a directive of that being of an interest to the governing body as opposed to another developer. There's other things like the Creative Space Referral Program, which is more of a time-intensive piece. It's not bricks and mortar costs so much to the city, but it can be a tangential benefit to the city overall, both in showing their support for the arts and for helping the arts community. Something like that could be handled potentially depending on the priorities of staff for the commission and time and funding availability for that. It's something that could be managed by our department. I know that with the city, again, there's so many different pots of arts involvement that maybe it is better fitted for another department that's already working on something like the art and vacant storefronts. I know it's not the exact title, but if it's something of that nature where they're already involved in what spaces are out there, so it makes more sense because they're actively having those conversations. So it depends.
Thanks because that makes it clearer sort of where we stand on this. Is it
Commissioner Lee, do you have any questions? Okay. I have several questions. Commissioner Deaver, when you were talking about this, do you think that the city should centralize a certain location, or have a certain location in mind where all of this should go, or is it okay for it to be spaced out throughout the city? And which do you think works better?
In my opinion, and based on my experience, you need a certain critical mass with regard to the arts. So if you have, say, for instance, a single gallery or a single artist studio, or somebody has a space in their home, and I think our tour is an example of this, it's very challenging for the public to be aware of that, and for them to be able to have the funding to be able to advertise that single location, for it to be a benefit to the community as a recognition of the support of the arts. So if you have space that is combined centrally or centralized in a particular location, it's more affordable for the organizations. Artists can share tools, resources, networking. They can host events. They can begin initiatives and programs where people have a location in mind that they can go to and to partake in those events. And so I think that is ultimately a benefit to the city. Nationwide and locally, I think there are projects that can be pointed to, like the Brewery Arts, the project in Santa Monica, that I lost my train of thought. So all this talking was bound to happen, wasn't it?
As far as should it be more centralized or spread? How do you see it?
Well, and when you have it spread out, it's more challenging to be able to fund it. You can have smaller projects in different pockets of neighborhoods, for instance, that are typically, if you have them targeted to a specific location. So if there's an area that needs to be redeveloped, something like this could be an opportunity where it's a catalyst project that brings other development. It could be a Main Street area that's already somewhat known for the arts, or in a neighborhood, but it's maybe needs a little extra boost. And you can have smaller projects, and often artists will come together and create their own projects if they're given the right incentives, or working with a property owner that's friendly, and can have maybe a 10-unit studio project that could also be impactful within a smaller area. So, but I do think to some extent you need to have some critical mass in the projects that you're creating.
I believe in European countries that is a very common idea, and I've forgotten what is that special area in Paris, that they have an area that it's a district for the artists, and people go and they visit, and I have forgotten the name. If anyone, yes, next to the church, exactly where is it? It's a great experience.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mr. Chapchin, I have a question for you. Would this kind of idea, part of my question is, what order does an idea like this move forward? Let's say, for example, that this gets approved, an idea like this from this commission. What would you suggest that we talk to redevelopment, housing authority, both, in what order?
Yeah, I think it just depends on where the particular focus is. Vet it out a little bit more, maybe more meat on the idea, on the bones, and then take it to the redevelopment agency. Planning is one of them as well. When you talk about live work, that type of thing, it's both planning and redevelopment that would get involved in it. There are some things, like you said, we can do, other things that we can't do. But we can work with the other departments to do that. But I think overall, maybe flush all this out in a recommendation to the City Council, as you suggested, and then once it gets to Council, it gets sent back down to the respective departments as a directive, really, and then they can work from there. That would be my suggestion in terms of
Great,
process.
Thank you for that. Okay. Yes, Commissioner Lee.
Thank you. In regards to the San Fernando corridor, I think they're working on ideas as such to be in place. So I think that we've already there's probably a already targeted area that we can try to focus on and see where we can help them set up this structure.
I would agree that corridor is a natural fit for these types of initiatives.
Just affordability is the main issue. This tour gave us the opportunity to talk to so many artists and businesses, and they were talking about what kind of high rents they are paying, and it's almost impossible for them to survive. So, in the same corridor.
Yeah. And the permanence of affordability, too. We use an example. There's, Soho in New York. I think down the road, downtown Los Angeles, which is their Gallery Row right now, which is seeing just tens of thousands of people coming down on a monthly basis. And right now, there are galleries and artists in that area because it was affordable when they moved in. And I can guarantee you, over the coming years, they are not going to be able to be there anymore. And so, being able to be on the front end of that as a community, to be able to say we've provided space, whatever that needs to be, again, whether it's living, studio, performance, whatever that needs to be, and saying that we're going to keep that in some way sustainably affordable for artists over the long term is miles ahead of a lot of communities across the nation.
Great idea.
All right. I guess, Ripsme, it's now, you have a lot of information that was just discussed.
I do believe it needs to go to the council, as it was suggested, to see where we go with that, or how we can support it, or what would be our role with that.
Well, first we would have, as a commission, have to approve some kind of concrete set of ideas, and I mean this is a rough draft as far as I understood, and there were some questions answered that in a report would be very, very clear and concrete. So I don't know where my colleagues feel on this. And Mr. Grant, do we have to? What can we do? Can we make a motion to have staff continue work on this, or?
Chair Kavanian, you don't even need a motion. You can direct staff, and as Commissioner Deaver said, if you guys have an idea of which of these are a few of them that are the most important to you, then staff can then come back and present a report to you, and from there you can make decisions and recommendations for a final report to City Council.
Okay.
Because with affordable and sustainable housing or live workspace, that really is going to take some commitment from the council in terms of how they do that. And then maybe something they want to commit to at this point.
Right.
Great suggestion. Thank you.
Well, it came from...
you're part of how we should procedurize it, and the idea is great. I think it would be a great thing on behalf of Commission if we could get this started, and if we get, the whole thing on the motion and get to that point, that would be a great gift that this Commission could give to our community.
And really, to be quite frank, the Commission, the community needs this kind of impetus to create, because to be an artist, especially in this kind of economy, is not a very lucrative situation. And I'm saying that for most of my colleagues, not here on this commission, but in the real world outside. So yeah, I would love to see this move forward in any kind of capacity, and even if we do have to take some, we can't have the pie and eat it too. But if this kind of idea were to move forward, I would be more than happy to support.
Does it make sense at this juncture to pick? Please offer other ideas too. Again, this is working. I don't know if this is something that we should table till next to give you some time to think about it and bring something back, or at some point say we want to pick 3 or 4 or prioritize from 1 to 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever it is, and say these are the things that we think are most important. These are things we maybe be a secondary tier, or depending on the potential for these others to occur in the city, so that we can give directions to staff to maybe pull some other information about similar types of programs and projects as examples, so that people don't feel like they're necessarily building their own new wheel, which can be a little bit intimidating, I think.
So how should we do that? Should we ask, or should we research, or should we ask the staff to work on it? What is the exact? Because to me, I think if whatever we are going to propose, if it goes that route, it is very important to know that what is city offering and what is the community in response, as you have. In return, what are the different ways that our city and community can benefit out of this project? Because this kind of dual, hand in hand, one helping the other, always gets better interest and gets better results than one way of constantly giving and providing and not knowing what are the options that in this economy we need to see that it helps both ways. So it would be great if there's a way or there's a research that shows different communities who have done that and prospered through that. Both the artists have got results and the city's businesses has ventured and it has become of flourished. That could give us a better perspective to approach.
I think the tail end of what Commissioner Darwinson was saying, that would happen when we go to, for example, if this goes through the process and goes to City Council, that's when we would need that kind of information
to provide.
But I think Commissioner Deaver's suggestion of prioritizing is a good one, given that we are limited in terms of staff time. Take a look at this list and prioritize which ones are the most important, and we can start working on those.
Okay.
And then once we do the research, we may find it planning is already doing some of this work, or redevelopment is.
And actually, what I was going to suggest is that, and of course, that's the limiting factor is staff time, and I understand that. But through discussion with, redevelopment, like a simple conversation, just going over some of these points, will automatically take off some, and will, you can just simply do some cross-checking and find out which ones already exist, and then we don't have to go after those. So, because even if we sit here and prioritize, we're gonna play the numbers game, and then we have to, who's got number one.
So how do you want us to do? Later on to email to Ripsime, or how does it work?
Well, I mean.
Or should we prioritize?
Because all of these things kind of go hand in hand.
That's
so
correct.
For us to sit here and prioritize, I think, is going to be destructive of the entire idea. So my suggestion is going to be to kind of hand this over to Ripsime and see what she brings as a report next time. And then from there, if we see that there's something that should have been included, and then we can ask a question, and then she can give us an answer, and then we can figure it out from there. We'll have playing room with that then. Yes,
I think it will be very helpful if the Commission pinpoints some of these ideas. There are 7 different ideas, even though they're very much connected, but it will make it much easier to go and do a lot of research. And you're the one, as an expert, Commissioner Deaver maybe can choose 1 or 2 or 3 different areas that you like us to start from.
Like my fellow commissioners, I don't really like making decisions, apparently.
I didn't say we didn't like to make decisions.
Yeah.
Well, my recommendation right now, for example, the first one, Creative Space Referral Program, I see that as out of these 7 might be the quickest that we can try to pinpoint. So, for example, when we spoke with the Verdugo Job Center, they mentioned that they know of all the vacant storefronts. We have a list to target, then we can have somebody approach those targeted facilities and see if they will allow that type of workspace. And then from there, then we can create an addition to our website, or maybe the Verdugo Job Center website, where then we can publicize to the public that if you're looking for a workspace, go onto this website, and these are the ones that we have so far, and see if there's a match, maybe as an approach.
What I might, my initial thought on that is I agree with that. I think there is in some ways more work intensive on something like that, because what you're leading into almost is moving forward on something like that, as opposed to like if we were to give direction to staff, it would be my recommendation on something like that to say, what department would be most appropriate to be able to pull that kind of information together the easiest? Because if it was going to be falling to RIPSME, for instance, under us, which I think could be fine, but I think it's actually extremely work intensive. So if that is something of interest, I agree. It's kind of a low cost. It's kind of something that would be a benefit in the short term, anyway. But we'd want to give some very specific direction about what we needed staff to find out about with regard to how to implement something like that.
Well, looking at the 7 items here, to me, what is the mother of all of them to be number 6? Because basically this is city policy that we have to see how they can provide this, and in return, what could those organizations provide for the city? What kind of services in return? So starting from there, if that sounds lucrative to the city and it is a doable thing, then it would, as Director Chapchian said, it would go then to the departments, and then our department and the other departments would put them together. So from the 7, I think the core is number 6, and then from the rest it becomes how we could become creative about who gets what, how we could challenge and bring the artists here, and how we could, all the rest comes as a result of number 6 from the way I see, but this is just my opinion. So if we could start from number 6 and find some research in that area to see how we could start with that. And if the city is interested, because we are representing the city and we are hand in hand working for the city in a way, so we will start from there and then we'll go from there on. Otherwise, to do all the researches and then, there's no kind of outlet, it is a time that is not well used. So if they are okay with that, and we can show them that this could be very productive for the city, basically. So then from then on, we can take all the other 5 or 6.
Okay.
So that was number 6 that you thought was the core?
Based on whatever has been discussed and whatever our city authorities sitting here are discussing, so this is where we go. And then from then on, we can become, all those areas could be, even they could assign which department or which staff should do which part of the rest of whatever is mentioned here.
The thing is that there are certain items here that are more labor intensive than the others, and I think 6 actually is the most labor intensive, because now you're talking for a policy that city owned spaces are basically being provided to organizations for arts use. That is so labor intensive and could involve so many different city branches that I can't even think about.
Yeah, but if there are policies, we need to know before we reinvent the wheel. So we need to know if there are policies and there are programs and there are housing systems that are in conjunction, and then we have to see what are we proposing as to accelerate that, to expand that, whatever, for the artists, to see what in return city could get. So then it would become an actual thing, because the rest would be a beautiful idea, but we need to put it, I don't have to mobilize it. To mobilize it, that's how I see, but that's just my suggestion.
I want to preface what I was saying by, that I agree, actually, that 6 is kind of, like you said, the mother of all the rest. If we don't have 6, then we can do all the other stuff, but it won't be complete in a sense.
Let me suggest, actually, since even though I put this together, I have to kind of figure out my thought process was on it. I would argue, actually, that number 4 is your core, because that is what we're talking about, is the development of affordable arts facilities. It doesn't have to be city-owned. It could be privately owned. It could, it's any type of space. So I think if we can agree that this is something that is what we want to see happen, I think a lot of the other things fall into how does that happen. I would say that actually, and number 1 are the 2 key pieces that create space, and the other pieces tell people about it, encourage people to take advantage of it, create incentives for it to happen, identify space for it to happen. So
Okay.
Could I say something? I do agree that number 4 could be the core item, but that would be in a situation that we had sort of, let's say, that 1% of whatever that comes, the revenue for art and developing art in the city of Glendale, and then we would have some means of being the source or the conduit of all these different activities. But since as far as staffing and as far as time and as far as money and etc., I don't know how we could start with 4 to encourage and to generate those ideas if we cannot actualize it. Maybe I'm just too much into actualizing this.
I think it's because the way that I'm looking at it as what I would like to see would be if the City Council were so inclined to support these types of initiatives, to have a directive of their own that says, yes, this is something that's important to the City of Glendale. How, affordable space for the arts, what have you. I think underneath that, if we can make that recommendation that is something that they can stand behind, and they can make a directive in that arena, then I think these other things fall into place behind that. Because we don't have to have funding and say, okay, we have funding now, what do we do with this funding? I think you have to start with the idea and then you identify the funding, because it doesn't necessarily come from the 1% for the arts or from the density bonuses or whatnot. It's from a myriad of different sources.
I agree. That could be a possibility.
Okay.
I'm too scared. Usually, that's why. And he has a thing.
I think I've gathered a consensus here between 4 and 6. I think what Commissioner Derhova-Nessian is loving about number 6 is the idea that it's a city policy, and I think if we can connect number 6 with number 4 and somehow connect those two, I think we'll have a solid number 1 choice. Mm-hmm. That we can all get behind and say this is what staff should be pushed towards. Commissioner Lee, sorry.
No, that's
Right
okay.
ahead.
Now, in regards to number 6, I think this should go hand in hand with the policies we were working on with Art in the Park, because technically that was for public spaces to have art in that same essence. But I'm saying if we already have some going, see if we can combine that in and add this other component into it, or I don't know if that will totally offset.
Okay. Well, Mr. Deaver, do you want to?
Don't I always?
Yeah, right.
No, that's okay, because it's your idea. We want to make sure that we...
I understand what you're saying, and I do think that the connection there is the identification of space that the city owns. I think the difference is because we're tied up enough as it is with regard to what our policies for the display of art in public spaces, I think is different than a city as a property owner leasing space on a permanent basis to an organization. It's a completely different legal and administrative scenario. But I do see the connection, I think, at the base level, foundation.
Okay, so just to expedite the processing here, because there's another meeting immediately after ours. So, and GTV6 will fire me if I don't hurry up the meeting.
I think the city council would do that.
Probably. So, is there any wording, or anybody have any suggestions as to any way to combine it? I mean, I guess Commissioner Deaver, you'd probably be the best person to do that, to combine kind of the city policy aspect of number 6 into number 4.
I
make it or and then go that way.
Well, I think in this essence they could both be policies, in that a recommendation to look into the I do think they could both be policies. Let me just back it up from there. But I think from a staff direction standpoint, I think if we can find out information about different types of projects that are in the area within California, if you're concerned about kind of legalities of how that transfers to our particular situation, but you might want to reach out further. It can bring back to the Commission just examples of sustainable projects of a variety of different models. I think that would be helpful. I think also that if if we could look into what policies and or property that the city currently owns, or policies for how that space is utilized. Because I don't know whether the city has space that's saleable or is rentable or not. That's outside of just public use spaces. So to me, those would be two specific staff directions that I think would address those two pieces. With regard to the creative space referral program, because I do think that is something that can be beneficial, because it takes a long time to build space. So if we're working on something tangentially, that might be a third item that over the course of the next month, if you had time to look into different programs that are out there. I think Pasadena might have one. There are a couple of different cities in the area that host these kinds of projects. If we could just find out what those cities are and what they're currently doing, or who runs them within the cities, that would be helpful.
So, Commissioner Deaver, you're looking for policies or model programs in other cities? You need to clarify one more time. If you could
Sure.
repeat exactly what you said.
Exactly.
So for number one, creative space referral program, if we could have information about other cities within LA County in particular that have this type of program that connects artists with space. For number four, the development of affordable arts facilities, if we could get local or national examples of sustainable projects, particularly that are city developed, but not necessarily that address live work, different models, display, performance, mixed use types of projects. And number four, this city policy for providing city-owned spaces to organizations for arts uses in return for programming, models within the county where this might be occurring, where art centers might be leasing space from cities. I can tell you, right, Armory Arts in Pasadena does that, for instance. You might already know that, but so examples of that, and what the policy is from the city standpoint for use of their publicly owned spaces.
So we are mainly speaking about number one, number four,
And number
six.
Yep.
Okay.
And 4 and 6 being the priority from what I gathered. Okay. All right.
And a suggestion, maybe contact the LA County Arts Commission and see if they have any leads on any of those items from the other cities that are within the county.
They are a good resource.
Okay. Are we done with that item?
Yeah, that's
Any other questions or comments?
We did pretty good. We narrowed from 7
Commissioner
down
Deaver,
to
thank you
3.
so much for putting all the work and effort into putting this thing together.
You're welcome.
Okay, next item, please.
5C reports at 5C1 6th Annual Open Studio Tour Final Report.
Chris, may you have 2 minutes. No, I'm kidding.
We were hoping to finish it by 3:30, but wait, this is our last report, final report about our 6th Annual Open Studio Tour. Therefore, we prepared a PowerPoint presentation, and our information is based on the data and the surveys, and actually on our observations on the day of the tour and the opening reception. We listened to the artists, talked to visitors and guests, and based on that information, we prepared this PowerPoint presentation. Okay. This year, we had 2,008 submissions, out of which 182 participated on the day of the tour, making this highest number of participating artists ever and the biggest open studio tour project in our city. 182, what happened? 145 artists exhibited one of their best pieces at the Brand Library Art Galleries from July 17th to August 13th. This year, we had so many guest artists, and we had a different approach. We provided some parks, community centers, art centers, home studios, businesses, to make sure that everybody will be accommodated with the space. Some of those parks were Adams Square Mini Park, Brand Art Studio, Chess Park, Pacific Community Center, Verdugo, and YMCA. Let's see. To create awareness of our project, we implemented several forms of marketing tools to create maximum, to promote the event as much as we can. And this year, Open Studio Tour was advertised and promoted in Arroyo Magazine, Glendale News Press, Pasadena Weekly, Daily News, La Cañada Valley, Burbank Leader. We also used different form of direct mail posters. 4,000 posters were produced, and flyers, color maps and black and white maps. Big posters for the businesses were provided for their locations. The event was also advertised on the city's website, on their home page, as well as on the Cultural Affairs website, GlendaleArtsAndCulture.org. And for several weeks, GTV6 was on the Open Studio Tour was on GTV6 also. All this information was distributed by the staff in many locations, such as the Brand Library, Central Library, Portos, YMCA, Pacific Community Center, Brand Mini Mart. As last time, this year every artist was also, we created portfolios for every participating artist and showcased their works on the website. The purpose of this was not only to promote the Open Studio Tour, but to help artists connect with the collectors long after the event. The downloadable maps and flyers were available online for those who didn't have the hard copies. We also participated at the cruise night with information booth, where we distributed a lot of this information. We feel very confident that this year we really promoted and advertised the event very well. Okay. As I mentioned, 145 artists exhibited one of their best pieces at the library from July 17th to August 13th. More than 500 guests attended the opening reception and admired very different form of artworks. These are some of the samples. Okay. As of today, we have received more than 46 responses from the artists. 31 of them are the surveys that were distributed on the day of the tour. We got more than now 15 emails. 35 out of 46 said they would love to participate again. 3 said will not participate, and 8 of them said maybe. From our observations, some of the locations where the public participation was slow, and And we had a small glitch about 2 Beeline buses who didn't show up on the day of the tour, and that was due to a driver scheduling error. But some other locations, we got reported that artists were doing very well. They came together in groups. They had refreshment. They had their own bands and invited their own group of people. They sold several pieces, and in some of the surveys, they indicated that this was a financial success for them. So we do know that overall, the participation was maybe less than other years, but and there are some areas that we really need to revisit and see what kind of changes we need to make for the next year's event. Our recommendation will be to revisit the concept of the Open Studio Tour project long before planning for the next year. As of now, we already sent out emails to all participating artists and asked them if they would like to be part of the planning committee. And I'm very pleased to say that many artists replied, and we already have more than 15 artists who are very much interested in to be in that process. So planning process should start at least 6 months prior to the event. And as you remember, we started this Open Studio Tour in early May, which was about 10, 11 weeks long for such a sizable project to organize. The other recommendation that staff has is the art community's involvement in the planning process and execution, business community's active involvement, and artists' full commitment and support. Artists' full commitment and support is very important. We worked very hard to organize this event, and we have seen in some cases that artists who were already showcased on the website and had their artwork hanged in the brand library on the day of the tour didn't show up. So we spent a lot of time on marketing the artists individually and the event altogether. We want to make sure that they will commit themselves to participate on the day of the tour. An event of this size would have not been possible to produce in such a short period of time without the help of the following dedicated businesses and individuals. Our special thanks go out to the businesses, individuals that helped to organize the 6th annual Open Studio Tour. As you see, the names of the companies: Brand Mini Mart, Cafe Victory, Octopus Restaurant, Porto's Bakery, YMCA, Glendale Youth Association, who provided with youth helpers, Sona Matevosyan and Ani Makhitarian, Brand Library Art Gallery, hosted the opening reception, and we thank Pat for beautiful installation. And of course, the Arts and Culture Commission, who was exceptional on the day of the tour, especially stayed with me the whole day and offered rides to the public. Thank you all.
Yes.
Well, I know that later on we'll have the chair to formally thank on behalf of, but it was phenomenal, Rivsime. I mean, we were all involved. We went to all these different locations, but I cannot tell you how grateful people were, and artists were, and even businesses around those areas were of what was put together. You know, when somebody travels, you see a lot more than the people who reside in the city. I had never known that there are so many centers, and actually to be able to see first of all, to map the artists of the city is a phenomenal thing. To create a map of where we can find art in this city by itself is a major event. Number two, to have it on the website, to have a portfolio of those artists. They were grateful, God knows, till heaven and earth would join, and they were talking about the fact that how they were being introduced and showing some of their artwork. That was phenomenal. To plan something of that magnitude, quoting our councilman Frank Quintero, he said, we like this kind of thing because it brings businesses. If each artist, 208 artists participating in the event, if each one of them would bring at least 5 friends and family members, you already have a large crowd who become involved. It was very interesting to see that in the city of Glendale, on a day that usually it's very quiet and nothing moves, there were so many people traveling from one place to the other, and in between doing their little kind of restaurants and stopping for coffees and etc. Personally, I stop at 3 different places and shop just for food and for coffee and for ice cream. So that by itself was good enough to make sure that you go into different places around the area. So it was phenomenal to be so short staffed and on such a short kind of a time span to do this kind of an event is unbelievable. Thank you and thank you and thank you. I want to thank Community Services and Parks for putting 2 events. The cruise night also. All the shopkeepers were very nice to us, and I want to thank, I think it's Don Coco or Don Cuckoo, who was there, was constantly, coming to us, and they were doing to other vendors that, do you want any refreshments, whatever. So it brings the city together. There's a commotion in the city that I hope my son would not say Glendale is a dead city. He says, I don't want to reside here. It's a dead city. We are not. And I think Art and Cultural Commission and Parks would put so much life in the city. Anyhow, so besides the advertisement, it was phenomenal. Thank you. It is unbelievable. Thank you, thank you, and thank you. And our commissioners, they were phenomenal on the day of the event. I cannot tell how he took the lead the moment the bus did not show up, and he volunteered to bring people, and we had people to follow us all around. And to see all these art places, like one of the art centers, I don't know, could I mention names or I shouldn't, or how does it work? Like, for example, in the Express Art Center, I didn't know that they have events besides the art exhibition. They have presentations, they have poetry reading, story reading to the kids, to the adults. So many events are going. And going to Atanyan or to Norik's Art Center or studio, how many students are, you could see all the students sitting and working and exhibiting their work. And what was so impressive, my husband was so flabbergasted with the idea that he could see not only famous artists' work, little kids' artwork in those studios were put together, and he said some of them were even better than the work of the main artists that you could see. So it was, well, he likes maybe that kind of art, but the fact is that there was so much of display and there was so much of involvement and etc. So thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, Commissioner Deaver?
Yeah, I second. Thank you very much. There's a couple of things I just wanted to think about and store away for next year, if I might. There are probably already things that are on your list, but I know that fees had come up as a potential thing. So I just want to mention, although that is one of the things, the claims or fame that we have is that we don't charge fees, but I think that there are minimal fees that could be assessed that would be extremely nominal to artists compared to things that they pay elsewise that might help cover some of our costs. And as part of that 6 months of work going into it, what kind of exploring, hopefully the committee can help explore what kind of fundraising opportunities there are out there and grants out there. I don't know what fiscally how that would work, but and the fact that we've got all this work into this map of all of these artists, and a lot of these are permanent spaces, like I said, that the art centers and such. I don't know to what extent that's been shared with our economic development office, but since they have, Think Glendale, I think is the website that they utilize to talk about arts and culture. I think it would be, to your point of having, wow, these are the locations of these places, if that could be made more public in some way, maybe that department would have an interest in undertaking the ongoing tracking of these cultural and other institutions within the city of Glendale for the public's benefit. Oh, and also one other thought for the committee for next year too, setting up some sort of social networking site where the artists can all come together, whether it's a Facebook page or something, whatever's hip and happening that year, but where they can coordinate and talk amongst themselves and share ideas and marketing ideas and things like that. I think might be a nice kind of electronic forum for those artists to be able to communicate. But thank you, I think very much. I know how much work and effort went into it. It's amazing.
And the one for interns also. They were wonderful. They were beautiful, wonderful. They were around helping Ripsy Man. It was a great community coming together.
Commissioner Lee?
I had a superb time. I'm used to event organizing, so there's always little things we need to tweak. So, but overall I had a very enjoyable time. But not enough time. I mean, in that time period, there was not enough time. I think I've only got to maybe 13 locations at most this time. This is less than half of how I made through last year, or in 2008. So, I think in the future, maybe we got to either go 2 days or centralize locations more. In that same respect, this way you can enjoy more without the travel time in between. I think that was sort of what took a lot of the time, the travel time in between. Technically, because we drove ourselves, you had to find parking, so there was a little criteria, different things that took up a little bit more time. But I was very impressed. There's a few art studios that I've never been to before, so I'm very impressed with the studios that are the quality of the studios that are in Glendale. Mm-hmm. I'm really impressed. So thank you again to Ripsame for a superb job, and to all the interns.
Okay.
In the interest of time, I will just say thank you, Ripsame, for your time. I have 1,000,001 comments, but yes. Sorry.
It's totally up to you, but we have very limited time. If you like to watch the opening reception video, it will be broadcast next week. It will start broadcasting next week, but today we can watch the short version of it.
No.
We don't have time at all. Yes.
And if I can just add, Ripsame and I did talk about the lack of time, and maybe it would be a better event if it was centralized, just like a cruise night, but all along Brand Boulevard, bring everybody in. And I think, we'll talk about that and come back with a recommendation if that's something you'd be willing to look at. Because it was a lot of artists, but just not enough time. Travel time alone takes...
And artists suggested that as well in the parks, and then it won't be, the equity thing is also
Right.
there, because some were saying our location was better than the other one, or we were more shade, we had more shades, more tree, the other ones were in the parking lots or whatever. So that way it could make it, but it would, as we talked to Ripsame, that would then not be a tour, but it could be a festival or whatever. That's fine, but we could have them, the maps, and tour them in that way, but to put all of the artists, it would be more time and cost efficient. Yes.
Okay, so we'll skip on the discussion and await the 6 month before the no video.
Video?
Okay.
Yeah, I already know.
Any other questions or urgencies from anyone?
Just to mention that Unity Fest is coming up, if this is the appropriate time.
No,
Not yet.
We're finishing.
Well, we're not. I had just on item C under reports. Any last? Okay, next item, please.
Item 6, commission and staff comments.
There we go.
Okay, we'll start all of it in the end.
Unity Fest, I know Zizette would kill me if I don't mention this. She's probably watching now as we speak. Is October 10th, Sunday, October 10th, and should be a really nice event. Again, on Brand Boulevard. You'll see more artists, much better program than previous years. I think it improves every year. So would recommend or suggest that people spend that Sunday at the Unity Fest, October 10 again.
What time does it start?
If they want information, they can always call the city manager's office about that. I think it's at 11 o'clock. It starts
11 to 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's next? Am I going to go
We'll
up
be
the
there
line?
to help them as well. for any event that city does, we will be there for them.
Absolutely.
Guess I'll go next.
Okay, Commissioner Lee, go right ahead.
For all those who have kids and want to send them to college, starting in the 4th grade to 12th grade, the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena offers a kids classes from 4th grade to 12th grade. My son had the privilege of signing up for an illustration class that just completed this last Sunday. Their classes are Sundays from 1 to 4 for 8-week session, and relatively it's inexpensive compared to what you can pay elsewhere. So anybody who has kids that are interested, you can go to the website www.artcenter.edu. I really recommend the program. My son enjoyed the program. If not, just go to the campus and take a look at their main corridor. Has some really good artwork. Along those same lines, a Unity Festival, again, I'll put in the plug. October 10th, it's on a Sunday, from 11 to 4 o'clock. We are closing down Brand Boulevard again, so it will be the same location as last year. We are, again, working on very good programming, so we'll be prepared. Remember also that there's a street fair portion with it, which will deal with vendors, hopefully more vendors from the Montrose Farmers Market. So please come out for that.
Bring lots of money and spend it.
Correct. Make sure you bring money because you have a lot of vendors, and then free entertainment. So you spend some money, at least then you can enjoy and sit down and relax and enjoy the show.
Can I add something to that Unity Fest for the vendors? They bring jewelry that you cannot find in any other stores, because whatever I've bought from them, from those vendors, all over friends, ladies, and everybody who is, they say, where did you get those beautiful stuff? So they all come from the vendors who, I don't know where they come, they're collected from all over, who get their little booths, and what they sell is unbelievable. Beautiful work. So come and join.
So now I know if I want to ever buy Commissioner Durrell when I send a present, I'll buy it from.
You're welcome, and all the lady
or your
friends you
girlfriend.
have.
And no girlfriend as of yet, but that's not on the agenda, so we won't go into that.
Now, along those same lines, we are looking right now for sponsors. So if anybody's interested, we are. You can contact Zazette at the city. We're looking for vendors, anybody who has unique art or unique trinkets and things that they want to sell boutique-wise. We are looking for vendors, food vendors, so anybody who's interested, contact Zazette.
Great.
Thank you.
Who wants to go?
I'll go.
Okay.
Really quickly, I'm wondering if for next month or sometime coming up soon, if we can get an update on the art installation program and maybe an invitation to Praxis to come, or somebody from the redevelopment agency to come and give us an update on that project. 'Cause I know there's not time now to chat about it. Also, the policy for art in the parks or art in public places or whatever we're calling about it, if next time if we could get an update on that as well. And then thirdly, how to say this quickly, I'd like to suggest for a future agenda item that we formalize our communication as a commission with the City Council, whether it's quarterly or biannual or some type of updates where we are formally going before Council and talking, and that whereby as individual commissioners, as we're all appointed by individual council members, that we are on a regular basis communicating with and or meeting with our respective council members. And also, because so many different departments are involved in the arts in this city, if we can formalize some sort of invitational process where we are inviting those from housing, redevelopment, parks, which we're a part of, but we don't always hear about exactly what's happening. The brand association, the libraries, and such. Just because there's not a centralized location for information gathering, I think it would be greatly helpful if we can talk about that at a future agenda item. Thank you.
Great points. Okay. I would like to mention that the Glendale Symphony is having an event at the Lexus of Glendale dealership on September the 11th from 4 to 7 o'clock. The musical program will start from 5 o'clock. It features the Glendale Symphony, and also the Glendale High School Orchestra is going to play as well. The address for the Lexus of Glendale dealership is 1221 South Brand Boulevard in Glendale. We're actually working right now, as you probably all know. I'm now the acting executive director, I guess, of the symphony or whatever. And I've been involved with the organization for years now. And actually, just brief notes on that. We're working with several conductors. We're in the process of finalizing an agreement with a gentleman named Jeffrey Bernstein, who was the past assistant conductor of the Pasadena Symphony under George Mester, and he's going to be conducting that night. The program is Mozart's Eine kleine Nachtmusik, Barber's Adagio for strings, and Bach Brandenburg Concerto. And also, if I don't know if maybe a lot of you have read in the Glendale News Press that the symphony is discussing involvement of Loris Cheknavorian, who's a famed Armenian Philharmonic conductor and has conducted London Phil, London Symphony, Vienna Philharmonic. He actually came to visit us several weeks ago. So we had a very fun time with him, and he almost didn't want to leave. So hopefully things will work out then and there, and who knows what kind of surprises are going to happen. You might even see me perform at this concert. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So yeah, right. And actually, Jeffrey is a good buddy of mine. And he, as a joke, he said, "Do you want to come play harpsichord?" And I said, "Well, I happen to own one, but what about playing during the concert?" But we'll see what happens. In any case, any other comments?
Just one comment. I'm very proud of all my commissioner colleagues, because recently I noticed with the last events, several, not one or two, they're all really hands-on involved from the beginning till the end. And I thought about what happened that this has come about, and I've come to the conclusion that when we see how Ripsime Marashian works so hard, and she is so hands-on about everything, I think it has generated all the energy. I don't get red or shy or blushing, because that's the reality. We have never been, as commissioners, as involved in all the details of events for all these years that we have been here. Every one of us, in their own way, have been involved. Again, thank you, Ripsime, and thank you for George Chapchan for giving the time and whatever and allocating this whole thing so we could make this happen. Because she's the one who does it all. We just follow her command.
I just remembered one thing very quickly. Because we appointed a liaison to the Glendale Arts Board, we also had one to the Brand Arts Association. So, and actually, there's one other liaison position, isn't there?
Jolene Wagner used to be the liaison, but because of the time changes, she couldn't
That's
do
right.
it anymore. As of now, there is no commission liaison to the Brands Association.
I can do that. I was the alternate. If you want, I could. If everybody's okay with that, I can.
Well, we'll talk about that for the next
section.
Yeah, and we'll make that an action item, and we'll have something to vote on, guaranteed. Okay. With that said, anybody else have any comments? Okay. Next item, please.
Item 7, written communications.
None.
Are there any?
None.
I'm really hoping for one of these days.
Send in one.
I know, please. Somebody write me a letter. Anybody out there listening to me, please write me a letter. Okay. Next item.
Adjournment.
Okay. We are adjourned.